There's a moment in every survivor's life when the world finally slows down, but the body doesn't. A moment when nothing is actually wrong. The house is quiet. The phone is silent. The night is calm. Yet your chest still feels tight. Your shoulders still feel raised. Your breath still feels borrowed. And you wonder, why can't I just relax? Why does peace feel unsafe? Why does my own body act like danger is hiding behind every second? Let me tell you a story. The night the body wouldn't listen. There was a woman who lived most of her life in survival mode. You wouldn't know it by looking at her. She laughed loudly, worked hard, stayed busy, and always kept going. People said she was strong. They had no idea strength was the only option she ever had. One night, for the first time in years, she sat on her bed after work and realized she had nothing to fix, nothing to respond to, nothing to fear. But instead of relief, she felt her heart racing. She wasn't in danger, but her body didn't know that. Her mind whispered, "You're safe." Her body whispered back, "Prove it." She put her hand over her chest, tried to breathe deeper, tried to think positive, tried to calm down. But the truth was simple. Her body wasn't tired, it was traumatized. Her mind wasn't weak, it was exhausted. She wasn't broken, she was carrying too much for too long. And that night, she realized something most people never do. The body keeps the score. Even when the world says you're finally allowed to rest. The question that breaks you open. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've survived so much that even peace feels unfamiliar. Maybe your nervous system has been sprinting for so long that standing still feels dangerous. Maybe you've learned to live on high alert, even in seasons that don't require armor anymore. And maybe you're tired. Tired of pretending you're okay. Tired of being strong because you had no choice. Tired of holding yourself together while your body melts under the weight. Tired of surviving more than living. If that's you, this is your audiobook. The truth most people never say out loud. No one teaches you how to feel safe. They teach you how to work, how to love, how to pray, how to endure, but not how to breathe in a way that doesn't hurt. Not how to unclench your jaw after 10 years of holding it tight. Not how to stop scanning rooms for danger. Not how to let someone care about you without flinching. Not how to sleep without fighting your own thoughts. Safety is the one skill we all need, and the one skill we were never taught. So here's what this journey is about. Not fake positivity. Not forced gratitude. Not pretending you're healed. But learning how to feel safe in your body. How to feel safe in your mind. How to feel safe in your relationships. How to feel safe in your life again. Even if you never had that safety before. The moment you start healing. Here's the turning point, the line that begins your return. Safety doesn't come back because things get easy. It comes back because you do. You don't need to outrun your past. You don't need to erase what happened. You don't need to magically relax. You don't need to think positive. You don't need to toughen up. You just need to learn what your body has been trying to say for years. I didn't feel protected. I didn't feel seen. I didn't feel safe. Please help me now. This audiobook is your guide to doing exactly that. The invitation. So sit with me. Slow down with me. Let your breath soften. Let your armor drop, just a little. Let yourself listen without pressure. Let yourself feel without judging it. Let yourself be human. Because the truth is, you are not difficult. You are not dramatic. You are not weak. You are healing. And healing feels like fear before it feels like freedom. And that's where our journey begins. Chapter 1. The moment you realize you're not okay. When your body finally speaks louder than your denial. When the truth catches up. When survival stops pretending to be strength. Let's go there, together. Chapter 1. The moment you realize you're not okay. There is a very specific moment in life. When the truth stops knocking. And starts breaking the door down. A moment when you realize. Not because someone told you. Not because a doctor said it. Not because a friend noticed it. But because your own body finally refuses to keep pretending. This chapter begins exactly there. When the body speaks first. Most people think breaking down looks dramatic. They imagine someone crying on the bathroom floor. Shaking hands. Messy hair. Trembling voice. But breakdowns rarely announce themselves like that. Most begin quietly. With a thought that feels heavier than usual. With a breath that doesn't go all the way in. With a silence that suddenly feels loud. It happens on random afternoons. In the middle of washing dishes. Or standing in line. Or scrolling on your phone while your chest feels tight for no reason. You pause. You swallow. You think. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is. But something's wrong. And for the first time in a long time, you don't push the feeling away. The day's strength stops working. There comes a day when your survival strategies, the habits that kept you going, the distractions that numbed you, the routines you clung to, suddenly stop working. You used to power through exhaustion. But now, even small things drain you. You used to hide your emotions. But now they leak out between sentences. You used to say, "I'm fine." But now your body says otherwise. The tight jaw, the stiff shoulders, the racing thoughts, the sudden tears. It's confusing at first, because nothing catastrophic happened. No tragedy, no breakup, no explosion, just a quiet collapse, a slow unraveling. The moment the inner voice you've ignored for years finally rises and says, "I cannot keep holding everything alone." When "I'm okay" turns into a lie you can't say anymore. You've said, "I'm okay" so many times. It became muscle memory, a reflex, a shield, a costume you learned to wear. But now when someone asks, "How are you?" you hesitate, not because you want to explain, but because the lie suddenly feels too heavy. You realize the sentence no longer fits you, like clothes that shrunk in the wash. And for the first time, you feel the weight of everything you swallowed, just to keep going. The disappointment you never voiced, the fear you never named, the loneliness you never admitted, the pain you never gave yourself permission to feel. This is the moment healing begins. Not when things get better, but when you stop pretending they're not bad. The moment you stop coping and start crashing. Most crashes don't happen because life gets harder. They happen because you finally get safe enough to fall apart. When you were busy, overwhelmed, constantly surviving, Your nervous system didn't allow the breakdown. You were in motion. You were in danger mode. You were running. But the instant your life slows down even a little, your body says, "It's time. I can't carry this anymore." And the feelings you postponed for years arrive all at once, not to punish you, but because your body finally believes it's allowed to feel. This is why breakdowns often happen after good moments. After you move into a safer home. After you leave a toxic relationship. After you get a new job. After things finally calm down. Your body is not betraying you. It's releasing what you've been forced to hold. The night you finally hear your own thoughts. There's a night. Everyone has one. When the world becomes too quiet. You lie in bed, staring at the ceiling. You try to sleep, but your mind starts replaying everything. The moments you brushed off. The situations you laughed through. The nights you cried silently. The things you thought you healed from, but only hid in deeper rooms inside you. It doesn't feel like a reflection. It feels like drowning. But here's the truth nobody tells you. This is your soul knocking. This is your body asking for safety. This is your mind begging for a softer life. You're not losing control. You're losing the version of you that survived by shutting down. The realization that shifts everything. At some point, you sit with all that pain. The fear. The exhaustion. The tension. And something inside clicks. I don't want to live like this anymore. Not dramatically. Not loudly. Just a quiet truth. A truth that feels like surrender. A truth that feels like relief. A truth that feels like finally telling the truth. This is the moment that separates surviving from healing. Because now you're not trying to get stronger. You're not trying to fix yourself. You're not trying to hold it together. You're trying to feel safe. Maybe for the first time in your entire life. A story you might recognize. There was a man who spent years being the responsible one. The one who handled everything. The one who solved problems. The one people leaned on. He never cried. Never complained. Never asked for help. Until one evening. After a long day of doing what he always did. He walked into his kitchen. Opened the cabinet. And his favorite mug fell out and shattered on the floor. He dropped to his knees and cried so hard. He scared himself. His life didn't fall apart. A mug did. Because it was never about the mug. It was about everything he held inside. That didn't have anywhere else to go. That's what happens when you reach your limit. It looks small from the outside. But inside, it's the collapse of a lifetime of holding. And that collapse, as painful as it is the doorway to safety. The moment you whisper, "I need help," even if only to yourself. You don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to tell anyone. You don't have to explain it. But inside, there comes a moment when you whisper, "I need support. I need rest. I need softness. I need peace." Those 4 words might be the bravest thing you ever feel. Because admitting you need help isn't a weakness. It's intelligence. It's maturity. It's self-protection. It's the first sign. Your nervous system is trying to return home. What this chapter has uncovered. Everything you're feeling right now. The anxiety. The heaviness. The exhaustion. The constant tightness is not proof that you're broken. It's proof that you're finally safe enough to feel what survival wouldn't let you feel. And once you understand that, everything changes. You've acknowledged the truth, and that alone is healing in motion. Now we go deeper. Chapter 2: Why Your Nervous System Doesn't Trust Peace. When safety feels unfamiliar. When calm feels dangerous. When your body keeps expecting the past to repeat itself. Let's walk into that together. Chapter 2: Why Your Nervous System Doesn't Trust Peace. There's a strange thing that happens. When life finally gives you a moment of quiet, you expect relief. You expect calm. You expect your body to unclench and let the breathing deepen again. But instead, your chest tightens. Your mind gets louder. Your body goes on alert. Your heart beats faster as if something bad is about to happen. It feels confusing, even cruel. You prayed for peace, and now that it's here, you can't seem to trust it. Your body isn't sabotaging you. It's protecting you. Your nervous system has one job: keep you alive. Not happy. Not fulfilled. Not calm. Just alive. It learned your history. It memorized your patterns. It paid attention to everything you went through, even the things you don't consciously remember anymore. So when life becomes quiet, after years of instability, conflict, pressure, or fear, your body doesn't interpret it as peace. It interprets it as something is wrong. This is unfamiliar. Stay alert. It's not that you don't want calm. It's that calm feels unsafe. Because your body never learned to exist inside it. The body learns through repetition, not intention. You can tell yourself, I want peace. I want healing. I want to slow down. But your body learned something different. It learned that chaos meant preparation. It learned that arguing meant survival. It learned that stress meant moving quickly. It learned that love meant danger. It learned that quiet meant the next storm was coming. So now, when silence arrives, your nervous system immediately thinks, where is the threat? What's about to happen? Why is it suddenly quiet? What am I not seeing? Not because you're dramatic, not because you're negative, but because you were trained by your experiences to expect the worst, just to stay alive. A story you might recognize. There was a woman who grew up in a home where yelling could start at any moment. Doors slamming, tension everywhere. Everyone is walking on eggshells. Years later, in her own home, she finally lived alone. It was peaceful, quiet, safe. But every night she sat on her couch, waiting for something. A noise, a problem, a fight, a disaster. Even though nothing was wrong. It wasn't trauma she was feeling. It was a pattern of memories. Her nervous system had learned. Calm means the explosion hasn't happened yet. So when life got calm, her body panicked. Peace felt like a setup. Safety felt like a joke. Stillness felt suspicious. Sounds familiar. When safety feels like a threat, peace is supposed to relax you. But if you've lived in survival mode too long, peace feels like danger. Why? Because your body associates relief with vulnerability. When you finally relax, you become open. And when you're open, you can be hurt again. So your nervous system tries to protect you by staying alert. Even when you're safe. It's not wrong. It's not broken. It's defending you based on old data. Healing means teaching it new data. You learned early that comfort doesn't last. Maybe you grew up in a house where good days turned bad quickly. Maybe you had relationships where affection became manipulation. Maybe you lived a life where every calm moment had a cost. So now, as an adult, your body believes. Comfort is temporary. Joy is suspicious. Happiness is a warning sign. Peace means something's coming. This is why you overthink during quiet moments. You feel uneasy on good days. You get anxious when things go well. You brace for impact even when nothing's wrong. Your nervous system is scanning for hidden danger, because it remembers danger everywhere. The hypervigilance you don't know you carry. You might not realize how often your body is in defense mode. You listen for tone changes. You monitor people's moods. You predict arguments before they happen. You replay mistakes. You question kindness. You notice the smallest shifts in energy. This constant scanning is not personality. It's survival conditioning. And survival conditioning doesn't disappear just because your life becomes quieter. It takes time, retraining, gentleness, and repetition. Why you feel more unsafe when you slow down. Survival mode has side effects. When you slow down, your emotions catch up to you. Your body releases stored stress. Your mind surfaces old memories. Your heart becomes louder. Your truth becomes unavoidable. So you run, not because you're weak, but because slowing down forces you to face everything you postponed for years. And that confrontation feels scary. But it's also the doorway to healing. The science behind your struggle. When your nervous system spends years in fight or flight mode, it resets its baseline. Your normal becomes high alert, tight muscles, fast thinking, shallow breathing, expecting the worst. So when calm finally arrives, and your nervous system drops into rest and digest, your body interprets it as a threat because it's unfamiliar. Imagine living in a loud city your entire life. Then someone puts you in a silent forest. The quiet itself becomes loud. That's your body learning silence again. Healing starts with relearning what safe feels like. Safety is not a thought. It's a sensation. You can tell yourself, "I'm safe." But if your body doesn't believe it, your words won't calm you. Relearning safety looks like your shoulders loosen without forcing it. Your breath slows. Your stomach is unclenching. Your thoughts become softer. Your reactions lose their urgency. Your heart feels less guarded. These sensations don't appear overnight. They return slowly. The same way sunrise doesn't happen in one moment. It arrives in degrees. But once they return, your entire world changes. There was a man who always felt uncomfortable on weekends. During the week, he worked non-stop. Meetings, noise, activity everywhere. But on Saturdays, when he woke up with nothing urgent to do, he felt anxious, uneasy, restless. He didn't know how to simply exist. One day, a therapist told him, "You're not afraid of rest. You're afraid of what you feel." when nothing distracts you. And he cried, because it was true. Peace exposes what survival hides. The first step to rebuilding safety. Not forcing calm. Not pretending you're okay. Not pushing through anxiety. Just sitting with yourself. Without trying to run. Healing begins the moment you stop fighting your body for feeling unsafe and start listening to what it's trying to protect you from. Your nervous system isn't malfunctioning. It's following old instructions. Your job is not to silence it, but to teach them new ones. Your body has told its story. Now it's time to understand its defenses. Chapter 3. When protection turns into isolation. Why do you guard yourself so tightly? Why don't you trust many people? Why distance feels safer than connection? And why your body built walls it no longer needs. Chapter 3. When protection becomes isolation. There's a moment in everyone's life that never announces itself. A moment you only recognize years later. The moment when protecting yourself quietly turns into isolating yourself. You don't notice it at first. It begins slowly, like pulling back 1 inch at a time. Maybe you've felt it too. The one who stopped answering. There was someone I once knew. Let's call her Mara. She was brilliant, warm, the kind of person who remembered everyone's birthdays, even when she forgot her own. And then life hit her harder than she expected. A relationship that broke her confidence. A job that drained the light from her. People she trusted who suddenly weren't steady anymore. So she did what many of us do. She shrank. Quietly. Beautifully. Almost invisibly. At first she told people, I just need a little space. But the space didn't end. Calls went unanswered. Messages gathered dust. Invites were met with silence. Not because she didn't care, but because she didn't have the energy to keep explaining what was happening inside her. Her world became smaller. One skipped event at a time. Then one day she told me, I don't know how I became this person. I'm not even sad. I'm just gone. And that sentence, I'm just gone, is what happens when the mind protects itself for too long. The truth you don't say out loud. Here's the quiet truth. You didn't isolate yourself because you didn't love people. You isolated yourself because you were tired of being strong, tired of being disappointed, tired of being used, tired of being misunderstood, tired of explaining pain that doesn't have words. And so you built a safer world, one made of routines and familiarity, where nothing could surprise you anymore. But protection has a cost, a high one. The body keeps its own score. Let's talk about science for a moment. When your nervous system has lived too long in survival mode, your body becomes hypersensitive to anything that feels unpredictable. A text that comes at the wrong time. A call you didn't expect. Someone asking, "Are you okay?" Even good news. Even affection. Even hope. Your body doesn't ask, "Is this good? Is this kind? Is this something I want?" It only asks, "Is this safe? Is this predictable? Is this familiar?" And if the answer is no, you retreat. Not because you're weak. Not because you're cold. Not because you're antisocial. But because your nervous system believes isolation equals safety. Connection equals threat. This is how protection becomes a cage. That doesn't look like a cage. Why you stop letting people in? It's not that you don't want a connection. You want it desperately, but not enough to risk breaking again. So you build walls. Quiet ones. Not the kind people can see, but the kind made of, maybe tomorrow. I'm busy. I'll reply later. I don't want to bother anyone. I'm just tired. But they're not excuses. They're symptoms. Symptoms of a heart that learned to survive by not needing anyone. Relationships suffer in silence. Here's the part we don't talk about enough. Trauma doesn't only affect you. It affects how you love. People say, "You're distant. You're quiet. You don't open up. You don't trust me." And you want to scream. It's not you. It's my nervous system. But how do you explain that? How do you explain that you're not avoiding love? You're avoiding the fear of losing it? So you keep conversations shallow. You keep people at arm's length. You give 60% so the loss will hurt less. And your heart, it starts to believe that this half-life is normal. The moment you realize you are alone, there comes a night. Everyone has one. When you look around your room and realize the quiet isn't peaceful anymore. It's empty. You realize you have built a life where nothing can hurt you, but nothing can reach you either. And that's the turning point. That's the moment protection stops being a shield and becomes a prison. Guided visualization. Opening one window. Close your metaphorical eyes for a moment. Imagine your heart as a house. For years, every window slowly shut itself to survive a storm. But the storm is gone now, and the windows are still closed. The air inside is still. Safe, yes, but stale. Now imagine walking room to room, placing your hand on one window, not opening all of them, just one. You unlock it, lift it slightly. Fresh air slips in, hesitant but real. This is how healing begins, not by throwing the doors open, but by opening one small window and letting safety relearn its way back in. The transformation begins quietly. The shift doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens in micro-moments. You reply to one message. You say yes to one invite. You ask for help once. You let someone hug you and you don't flinch. You tell someone, actually, today was hard. You let one wall come down, 1 inch. That's all it takes. An inch. Healing does not need a grand gesture. It needs permission. The first promise you must make to yourself. Here's the promise you start with. I deserve a life that doesn't require survival. Say it again. Slower. I deserve a life that doesn't require survival. Because the moment you believe that, your nervous system begins to soften. Your shoulders drop. Your stomach unclenches. Your breath deepens. Your heart remembers itself. This is what safety feels like. In its first form. Not comfort, but relief. The bridge to Chapter 4. And it's here. In this quiet, tender recognition. That Chapter 3 meets its turning point. You've spent years protecting yourself. You've done what you had to do. You survived what tried to break you. But now, Survival is no longer the goal. Rebuilding is. Returning is. Letting in is. So the next question becomes, if safety begins inside you, how do you build it into a life you can trust? Chapter 4. When the body remembers danger. The keys at the door. She told me it happened every time she heard keys in a door. Not yelling. Not violence. Just the gentle rattle of someone arriving home. And still, her chest tightened. Her shoulders locked. Her breath caught before she even knew it. The man she lived with now had never hurt her, never even raised his voice. But her body didn't care. Because the nervous system remembers what the mind tries to outgrow. She whispered, "I hate that my body flinches at love." I told her, "It's not love you're flinching from. It's the past." This is where Chapter 4 begins. The chapter where survival starts to loosen its grip. The body that won't unclench. There's a kind of fear that no longer needs a reason. A fear that survives even after life becomes safe. It stays because your body never received the message that danger ended. You call it anxiety. The truth is softer and sadder. Your body is still trying to protect you, even when nothing is chasing you anymore. You learn to live in self-defense for so long that relaxation feels unfamiliar, sometimes even threatening. Peace feels suspicious. Calm feels unsafe. Quiet feels dangerous. Because for years, danger always arrived quietly. The body remembers what you survived. Trauma doesn't store itself in memory. It stores itself in posture. In how tightly you inhale. In how slowly you trust. In how quickly you brace. Your body carries chapters you never agreed to keep. The jumpiness. Overthinking. The need to scan every room. None of that means you're broken. It means your body did its job too well for too long. And it doesn't know the war is over. When safety feels unfamiliar, you're not afraid of the present. You're afraid of what the present reminds you of. You can be love and still flinch. You can be safe and still recoil. You can be free and still move like someone who is trapped. Healing isn't about ignoring danger. It's about teaching your body what safety feels like. Because safety is a skill too. The grocery aisle. She said it happened in the grocery store. A stranger brushed past her cart. Not intentionally. Not aggressively. But her heart started racing. Her palms began to sweat. Her throat closed. She wasn't afraid of the person. She wasn't afraid of the place. She wasn't afraid of the moment. She was afraid of the memory her body thought was happening again. Why does something so small feel like a threat? She asked. Because the body doesn't measure danger by size. It measures it by similarity. Any echo of what once hurt you. I can feel like it's happening again. Even if today is safe. This is why healing feels slow. Because your life changes faster. Then your nervous system can keep up. The moment the body expects impact. Sometimes you freeze without knowing why. Sometimes you shut down before you think. Sometimes you withdraw before you speak. Not because you're dramatic. Not because you're weak. Because your body still remembers the impact. and the body prepares before the mind interprets. This is biology, not failure. When you stop feeling safe with yourself, the deepest part of healing is learning to trust your own reactions again. Not every fast heartbeat means danger. Not every silence means rejection. Not every conflict means collapse. Sometimes your body is responding to a ghost, and you deserve to know the difference. The art of our teaching safety. So how do you retrain a nervous system that lived in survival for too long? You teach it. Slowly, gently, consistently. What peace feels like. Not by forcing calm, but by offering it. Not by demanding trust, but by modeling it. Not by pretending you're okay, but by acknowledging when you're not. Healing begins when honesty becomes your home, instead of fear. A new kind of safety. There comes a moment when you pause before reacting, when you feel your chest tighten, and ask, is this the past or the present? And that tiny pause, that millisecond of self-awareness, is the beginning of a new life. Healing isn't loud. It's quiet. It's small. It's steady. It's the moment your body stops fighting imaginary battles and starts trusting the world in front of it, even a little. The body can learn peace. Your body isn't stuck in fear because you failed to heal. It's stuck because you were never shown what safety looks like. But you're learning now, slowly, gently, in breaths, not in breakthroughs. The body that remembers danger can learn to remember safety too. And that skill will rebuild you from the inside out. Chapter 5 begins with the first moment you realize your body no longer reacts out of fear, but out of awareness. The moment survival softens into self-recognition. Chapter 5. When peace feels impossible. The weight you're still holding. Peace isn't hard because it's rare. Peace is hard because it feels unfamiliar, especially after years of holding yourself together with nothing but willpower and fear. There comes a moment, and you've felt it, when your body is tired of being the shield, when you're exhausted not from life, but from bracing for life. You want peace, but you don't know how to unclench. You don't know how to stop scanning for danger. When danger was your language for so long, you don't know how to relax. When vigilance felt like survival. And that's okay. This chapter exists for that. Why peace feels frightening. Most people think peace is soft, gentle, warm. But for someone who has lived in survival, peace can feel like exposure. Peace removes the distractions that once protected you from your own thoughts. Peace forces you to feel what avoidance kept quiet. Peace shows you the wounds still living inside your chest. This is why peace can feel unsafe. Not because it's dangerous, but because it's honest. Your body prepares for what's no longer there. Have you ever noticed? You brace for impact before anything happens? That's not anxiety. That's a memory. Memory preserved in your muscles, in your heartbeat, in your breathing rhythm. You're not reacting now. You're reacting to them. And your body doesn't yet know the difference. This is why peace doesn't land. Why doesn't it stay? Why don't I feel restful? Peace is not the absence of noise. Peace is the presence of safety. And your body has never been taught how to feel safe. The moment you stop running. Peace often begins in the smallest moment. When you pause before your usual reaction. The pause is microscopic. Sometimes half a breath. Sometimes a second. But that pause means something. You're no longer being controlled by the version of you that survived. You're beginning to build the version of you that wants to live. The woman who couldn't sit still. I once knew a woman who said she hated silence. She'd fill her home with noise. TV, podcasts, music, anything. Not because she liked the sound, but because silence made her feel exposed. She said, "Quiet feels like a room where my fears get too loud." It wasn't noise she needed. It was a distraction. Anything to avoid the ache of her thoughts and the echoes of her past. But one day, during a power outage, she sat in silence for the first time in months. And she cried, not because she was weak, but because the quiet finally gave her permission to hear herself. Peace sometimes begins in the moment. You stop drowning out your truth. The body doesn't trust stillness. When you've spent years surviving disappointment, heartbreak, inconsistency, betrayal, instability, childhood fear, emotional chaos, your nervous system becomes loyal to what it knows. And what it knows is, if I stay alert, I survive. So when life finally becomes quiet, your body doesn't celebrate. It panics. Why is it so quiet? What's about to go wrong? What am I missing? This is not failure. This is conditioning. And conditioning can be rewritten. You are not broken. Your body is learning. Some nights you'll feel calm. Other nights you'll feel restless. Some days you'll feel safe. Other days you'll feel overwhelmed. This does not mean you're going backwards. It means you are healing. Healing is not the removal of fear. Healing is the ability to recognize fear without becoming it. You're learning yourself again. You're learning your triggers, your patterns, your needs. And that learning curve is not a mistake. It's the path. The unlearning. Peace requires unlearning. Unlearning the belief that rest is dangerous. Unlearning the belief that quiet means something is wrong. Unlearning the belief that you must earn love through tension. Unlearning the belief that you can't relax until everyone else is okay. Unlearning the belief that comfort is temporary and fear is permanent. Peace returns when the body stops rehearsing the past. And that requires practice, not perfection. The real work, allowing yourself to exhale. Here's something simple that your body needs to hear daily. You're allowed to relax now. But your body won't believe that instantly. Just like a child who has lived in chaos doesn't instantly trust a safe home. Your nervous system needs repetition, consistency, gentleness, patience, not punishment, a practice for peace. Try this now, not as a technique, as a gesture of self-kindness. Notice one thing in this moment that is not threatening. Just one. A sound, a texture, a light, your breath. Safety begins when you notice. even one small part of life, that isn't hurting you. Let your body register it, even for a second. That's peace. Not the absence of fear, the presence of safety. The moment peace arrives. Peace rarely arrives loudly. It arrives in soft signs. You don't overreact as quickly. You don't brace as hard. You don't panic when someone loves you honestly. You don't collapse when plans change. You don't assume the worst immediately. You don't replay conversations all night. Peace doesn't feel like fireworks. Peace feels like, I can breathe here. And that is everything you've been searching for. You deserve a life that doesn't hurt to live. Not a life that exhausts you. Not a life that scares you. Not a life that keeps you in survival mode. A life you can feel safe inside. A life your body doesn't have to flinch through. A life where your nervous system finally learns. This moment is not the one that broke me. Peace is learning to trust the present, without dragging the past into it. And you're closer to that than you think. Chapter 6 begins the moment you finally stop apologizing for needing gentleness. The moment you realize your healing doesn't need permission, just patience. Chapter 6: The Cost of Living in Survival Mode. There's a moment in every healing journey when you finally admit something hard. I've been surviving for so long that I forgot how to live. And that realization hurts. Not because you failed, but because you finally told the truth. The silent price you've been paying. Survival mode has a cost. A cost you rarely see at the moment. A cost that doesn't charge interest slowly. It takes everything up front. Survival mode takes your rest. It takes your joy. It takes your softness. It takes your breath. But the most painful cost is this. Survival mode makes you abandon yourself in order to stay alive. The body that never stops guarding. Living in survival mode doesn't just affect your mind. It reshapes your body. Your shoulders tighten. Your jaw clenches. Your breathing becomes shallow. Sleep becomes negotiation. Joy becomes foreign. Even when nothing is wrong, your body acts like everything is. You live ready. Ready to run. Ready to defend. Ready to lose. And the worst part? You don't know you're doing it. You just think you're tired. The boy who grew up listening for footsteps. There was once a boy who never slept deeply. Not because he didn't want to, but because he grew up in a house where peace depended on footsteps. If he heard slow footsteps, he could relax. If he heard fast footsteps, he knew the night was about to break. Even when he grew older and lived in a quiet apartment, his body still listened. It listened for footsteps that weren't coming anymore. He didn't live with fear. He lived with memory. And one day he said, "My life is safe now, but my body hasn't been told." This is what survival mode does. It teaches your body to stay on guard, long after the danger is gone. Adult survival is just childhood fear with better clothes. Nobody wakes up one day and decides, "I want to live in survival mode." No. Survival mode is a childhood adaptation that became an adult identity. Growing up, you learned, don't relax too much. Don't expect consistency. Don't show needs. Don't trust peace. Don't get too comfortable. And now the adult version of you still follows rules meant for a past that no longer exists. You're not afraid of the present. You're afraid of the past repeating. Why you struggle to feel safe? Because safety doesn't come from your environment. It comes from your nervous system. And yours has been taught. Calm is suspicious. Rest is unsafe. Stillness is preparation. So even when everything around you is peaceful, your body still acts like you're in danger. This is not a weakness. This is physiology. The nervous system doesn't speak language. It speaks of memory. And your memories have long shadows. You can't heal in the same state that broke you. If you try to heal while still in survival mode, everything will feel harder than it should. You'll feel guilty for resting. You'll feel uncomfortable in joy. You'll distrust calm. You'll sabotage peace. Because peace doesn't feel normal. This is why healing requires a shift. Not in environment, but in internal safety. You cannot grow while your body thinks you're fighting for your life. Healing begins when the body stops expecting danger. The traits you think are you are actually survival responses. Let's name them. You overthink because your mind scans for threat. You detach because connection once meant pain. You stay busy to avoid feelings. You apologize too much because safety meant being invisible. You shut down because expressing yourself wasn't safe. You don't trust compliments because criticism built your identity. You hold tension because relaxing feels risky. These are not personality traits. These are survival traits. And survival traits are learned, which means they can be unlearned. The fatigue no one sees. Survival mode drains you in ways people never recognize. They see you functioning. They see you working. They see you managing. But they don't see the nights you rehearse worst-case scenarios, the mornings you wake up exhausted, the constant alertness, the emotional bruises, the guilt for resting, the fear of letting your guard down. People see strength. They don't see the cost. Survival mode builds strong people, but it breaks them quietly. A moment of truth. Listen carefully. You do not deserve a life where your nervous system has to work this hard just to exist. Your worth is not defined by how well you endure chaos or how long you stay strong. There is no trophy for surviving everything alone. You were built for more than endurance. You were built for safety, for rest, for connection, for laughter that doesn't make you feel guilty, for love that doesn't feel heavy, for mornings that don't require courage. You were built to live, not just last. The beginning of living. Healing from survival mode doesn't begin with courage. It begins with one question. What would my life feel like if I didn't have to protect myself all the time? Your nervous system doesn't need instant safety. It needs consistent safety. Tiny signals, small repetitions, gentle reminders that danger is no longer here, that your life is not a battlefield, and your heart is not a soldier. Not anymore. Not today. Chapter 7 begins where exhaustion ends, and where you finally learn what it feels like To have a body that trusts you again. Chapter 7. When your body doesn't believe you're safe yet. There's a strange moment in healing that no one warns you about. A moment when your mind says, "I'm safe now." But your body whispers back, "I don't believe you." The disconnect between knowing and feeling. You can know you're safe. You can understand it. You can logically explain it. You can recite it like a fact. But your body only speaks the language of experience. And experience taught it. Danger doesn't announce itself. Peace doesn't last. Softness is a trap. Love is inconsistent. Joy can flip without warning. Your body remembers everything. Your mind has already forgiven. Healing requires teaching your body what your mind already understands. The physiology of fear that never got to rest. Your nervous system has two settings: protection, presence. And for most of your life, you lived in protection. Even when you laughed with tension underneath. Even when you rested, your mind stayed half awake. Even when you felt joy, you kept one emotional foot on the brake. You've never fully exhaled. Not once. Not completely. That's not a weakness. That's conditioning. Your body learned. If I let go, I get hurt. If I relax, I lose control. If I stop guarding, something will happen. And the body stays loyal to the rules that kept it alive, even if those rules are destroying you now. The woman who jumped at door closures. There was a woman who flinched every time she heard a door close, even if the room was peaceful. At work, at home, at a friend's house. It didn't matter. One day someone asked, "Why do you react like that?" She said, "I don't know. But my body remembers something I don't." Later, she realized, when she was younger, every argument in her home began with a slammed door. Her mind forgot. Her life moved on. Her body never did. This is trauma. Not drama. Not exaggerating. Not a weakness. Just memory. Stored in muscles, breath, posture, nerves. Your mind stores stories. Your body stores the truth. Why you react stronger than the moment deserves. Have you ever noticed how a small tone shift triggers fear? A delayed text floods you with worry. A quiet room makes your chest tighten. Praise feels suspicious. Love feels overwhelming. Sudden noises shock your whole system. These reactions are not about the present. They're echoes. Echoes from years of vigilance. Years of monitoring. Years of predicting danger. Before it happened, you are reacting to memories, not moments. And that is why healing feels slow. Because you're not just changing thoughts. You're rewiring responses. Safety is a skill. No one tells you this. Safety isn't an emotion. It's a skill. Something you practice. Something you build. Something you teach your body. Like a new language. At first, it feels foreign. It feels uncomfortable. It feels too soft. The truth is, safety doesn't feel safe. When danger was your normal. You have to grow into it. The body needs proof, not promises. Your body doesn't heal just because you say, I'm fine now. I'm better now. It's over. No. Your body heals when days pass without chaos. Rest isn't punished. Peace isn't taken away. Kindness stays consistent. Boundaries stay firm. You no longer betray yourself. Tension has somewhere to go. Comfort becomes familiar. The people around you are predictable. Safety is repetition. Consistency. The same experience. Over and over. Until the body finally unclenches. You can't force your body to trust. You can't intimidate yourself into healing. You can't shame yourself into calm. You can't rush unwinding with logic. Your body will not relax because you want it to. It will relax because you've shown it enough times that it can. You must stop asking, "Why am I still like this?" and start asking, "What does my body need to trust me?" The moment your body starts to believe you, it happens slowly. One day, you'll notice your shoulders didn't rise when someone called your name. One day, your chest won't tighten when your phone rings at night. One day, you won't rehearse conversations before they happen. One day, you'll hear footsteps behind you and feel nothing at all. One day, quiet won't feel dangerous. One day, rest won't feel like guilt. That's the moment your body whispers, "I think we're safe now." You are not broken, you are conditioned. Let's say it clearly. There is nothing wrong with you. Your reactions, your patterns, your tension, your fear, your overthinking, your guard, it all came from somewhere. All of it was adaptive. All of it protected you. All of it kept you alive. You are not malfunctioning. You are overfunctioning. In the wrong environment. You don't need fixing. You need unwinding. The gentle work of Ari teaching your body safety. Here's what healing looks like in practice. Slow breathing. Unclenching your jaw. Relaxing your shoulders. Letting silence exist. Naming your emotions. Trusting consistency. Not rushing your answers. Saying, "I'm not ready." Leaving the room when overwhelmed. Choosing people who feel safe. Stopping when your body says stop. Healing is not dramatic. It's subtle. Invisible to most. Miraculous to you. The small ritual that rewires everything. Try this. Place your hand on your chest. Take a slow inhale. Hold it. Let it fall. Then say softly, "We are safe now." Your body won't believe you at first. Say it again tomorrow. Then again next week. Then again next month. Safety is built in repetition. The same way fear was. You are reparenting your nervous system. With patience. With gentleness. With proof. Chapter 8 begins where trust returns. Not all at once. But breath by breath. Moment by moment. As your body slowly remembers what peace feels like. Chapter 8. The moment you finally exhale. There is a moment in healing that is so small, so quiet, so subtle, that you almost miss it. It doesn't look like a breakthrough. It doesn't look like triumph. No tears. No collapse. No dramatic shift. It's just this. You breathe differently. A little deeper. A little slower. A little fuller. And for the first time in years, your nervous system stops bracing for impact and lets a breath go all the way out. This is the moment. Your body begins to soften into the possibility of safety, the body that never let go. You've spent years surviving on shallow breaths, breaths that never fully filled your lungs, because something in you always whispered, "Don't relax yet. Stay alert. It's not over." Your inhale was cautious. Your exhale was incomplete. That's what fear does. It curls around the diaphragm. It tightens the ribs. It holds your breath hostage. You aren't weak. You're conditioned. Your breath learned to protect you by preparing for the next hit. Emotional, physical, psychological. Even long after the danger passed, your breath stayed loyal to the memory of it. Survival teaches you how to hold your breath. Healing teaches you how to release it. The first exhale isn't relief, it's confusion. When your body finally lets go, it won't feel peaceful at first. It will feel strange, foreign, almost wrong. Because relaxation isn't familiar. Safety isn't familiar. Stillness isn't familiar. You've lived in tension for so long that peace feels like an intruder. The first full exhale feels like, is this allowed? Is it safe to soften? What happens if I stop bracing? Your body doesn't trust comfort yet, but it's curious. It's listening. It's trying. That curiosity is the beginning of healing. The man who didn't know he was holding his breath. There was a man who, every night, would lie in bed exhausted, but unable to sleep. He thought it was insomnia. He thought it was anxiety. He thought it was caffeine, or overthinking, or stress. One day, someone asked him, "Do you know you never exhale fully?" He laughed. He didn't believe it. Until he paid attention. He realized that every breath he took stopped halfway down his chest, as if something inside him refused to let life in, or let stress out. Years earlier, he grew up in a home where silence meant danger, and noise meant eruption. Every night, his body waited for something to break, and so he never exhaled. When he finally did, one long, trembling, unexpected exhale, he cried, not because he was sad, but because his body had been waiting years to let go of the tension. It never had permission to release. The exhale is the body saying, "I trust this moment." You can fake a smile, fake confidence, fake calm, but you cannot fake a real exhale. A full exhale is a biological vote of trust. It signals, the danger has passed. I don't need to guard anymore. I can exist without bracing. This moment won't harm me. It's the nervous system's way of saying, we survived. Now we can live. Why you haven't exhaled in years. Maybe you grew up in chaos. Maybe you lived in survival. Maybe your relationships were unpredictable. Maybe you were responsible for everything. Maybe emotions were unsafe. Maybe rest was punished. Maybe love came with conditions. Your body learned that softening was dangerous. So it adapted. Tight chest, stiff shoulders, raised heartbeat, shallow breathing, hypervigilant senses. All of this protected you, but you're not in those places anymore. And your body hasn't received the memo. Breath is the first place the body lets go. When healing reaches a certain point, your mind doesn't change first. Your body does. You'll notice. Your shoulders drop without being told. Your jaw unclenches. Your stomach loosens. Your chest opens. Your breath deepens. The background noise in your mind quiets. It happens quietly, without ceremony, without warning. Your body exhaling. Is your past loosening its grip? The exhale isn't just breath, it's permission. You aren't just releasing air. You're releasing years of bracing, years of pretending, years of expecting pain, years of overthinking, years of hyper-awareness, years of emotional armor, years of tension stored in ribs, chest, spine, years of don't break, don't soften, don't rest. A full exhale is your first rebellion against survival mode. It's your body choosing life over fear. The exhale that changes everything. There is a moment, deep in healing, when you exhale, and something in your chest doesn't tighten back. It stays open. It stays soft. It stays available. And you realize you have room inside you now. Room to feel. Room to rest. Room to trust. Room to exist without guarding. This is the beginning of internal safety, not theoretical safety, not logical safety, not emotional safety. But I felt safe. The kind you don't have to convince yourself of. The kind you don't have to perform. The kind that doesn't collapse. The moment someone leaves the room. Felt safety is durable, stable, quietly powerful. Teaching your body how to exhale again. Here's what helps. 1. Slow inhales through the nose. Not forced. Not dramatic. Just present. 2. Longer exhales through the mouth. Because long exhales tell the body, you can stand down now. 3. Putting your hand on your chest. So your body knows. You're paying attention. 4. Relaxing the muscles at the base of your ribs. That's where old fear hides. 5. Whispering. It's safe to breathe here. Or, we are okay now. Your body hears tone, not logic. The exhale is an identity shift. When you breathe differently, you live differently. You choose softer people. You take slower mornings. You stop rehearsing conversations. You stop begging for reassurance. You stop scanning the room. You stop over-apologizing. You stop bracing for loss. Because the body that has learned to exhale is the body that finally believes, I deserve peace. The first exhale is not the last. Healing isn't one breath. It's 1,000. 1,000 small releases. You don't even notice at the moment. 1,000 microscopic moments. When your body stops gripping the past and starts trusting the present. Some days you regress. Some days tension returns. Some days you forget to breathe again. That's okay. Healing isn't linear. Safety isn't permanent. But both are possible. and both grow. Every time you soften, instead of tighten. Chapter 9 begins where breath becomes belonging. The moment you stop fighting yourself and start living in a body that finally feels like home. Chapter 9. When your body finally feels like home. There comes a moment in healing when the world doesn't change. You do. Not suddenly. Not all at once. Not with fireworks or awakening. It happens quietly, like someone dimming the noise. Inside your chest. You don't celebrate it at first. You don't even recognize it. But something in you begins to ask, what if I'm not in danger anymore? And for the first time in a long time, your body doesn't argue. The body you lived in. For years, you didn't inhabit your body. You just used it. I used it to work. Used it to endure. Used it to hold emotions. You weren't allowed to express yourself. Used it to survive environments. Your mind had to pretend we're normal. Your body was the carrier of everything. Your fear. Your alertness. Your survival instincts. Your memories. Your reactions. Your bracing. Your exhaustion. It wasn't home. It was headquarters. A command center. A shield. A place you lived from, but never lived in. The first sign of home isn't comfort, it's access. You begin to notice things. Your shoulders drop. Without your permission. Your stomach unclenches. As if someone loosened a rope. Your hands soften. Not gripping the invisible tension they used to hold. You stand differently. Walk differently. Rest differently. This is the body saying, I trust you. That trust didn't exist before. Because before, your body was managing danger. You didn't always acknowledge. The girl who finally sat on the floor. There was a girl who never sat on the floor. Not because she didn't want to, but because growing up, every time she sat down, someone shouted, "Get up. Don't be lazy. Don't rest when there's work. Don't relax when things aren't done." Rest, in her world, meant punishment, meant weakness, meant danger. She grew up, moved out, built a life of her own. But still, she never sat on the floor. Until one evening, after a long day, she dropped her bag, slid down the wall, and sat. No reason, no plan, no fear. She sat on the floor, for the first time as an adult, and started crying. Not because she was sad, but because her body finally realized, no one is going to punish me for resting anymore. That was the moment. Her body became home again, and she didn't even know. She had been looking for that moment. Her whole life. The body remembers safety slowly. You can tell your mind, I'm safe now, 100 times. But the body only believes it. Through repeated evidence. Softer breath. Fewer triggers. Fewer startles. Waking up without dread. Going to bed without racing thoughts. Sitting without guarding your back. Eating without bracing. Relaxing without guilt. Existing without apology. These are not small things. These are milestones. Because a nervous system in survival does not allow peace. And yet now, You are tasting it. Not fully. Not permanently. But in moments. Moments that expand. Each time you honor them. The difference between not in danger and feeling safe. People assume they're the same. They're not. Your mind can know. You're safe. Your body can still feel. Hunted. Healing is the long journey between I'm no longer in danger and I feel safe in my own skin. The first is logic. The second is transformation. When home returns to the body, you start noticing things. Number one, you don't rush as much, even when you're late, because your nervous system isn't operating in panic mode. Number two, you don't rehearse conversations anymore. You trust yourself in real time. Number three, you apologize less. Not because you're arrogant, but because you're no longer afraid. Number four, your muscles stay relaxed longer. Your body doesn't expect impact. Number five, you stop scanning rooms. You walk in as if you belong. Number six, you don't freeze when someone raises their voice. Your past no longer hijacks your present. Number seven, you wake up without bracing for what could go wrong. Your mornings are not battlegrounds. This is home, not a place, a feeling. The body finds you before you find peace. People think healing is a thought, a mindset, a revelation. But healing is biological. It's in the heart rate that no longer spikes from small noises. It's in the jaw that no longer clamps down in conversations. It's in the breath that expands deeper without fear. It's in the spine that doesn't stay straight out of vigilance. Your body relaxes before your mind even understands why. It's like your body whispers, "You're allowed to stay here now." The home you become to yourself. You begin creating shelter inside your own chest, a refuge, a sanctuary, a softness. You notice. You don't rush to abandon yourself. When conflict rises, you don't collapse into old patterns. When triggered, you don't disappear to make others comfortable. You stay with yourself. This is the deepest form of safety. Staying with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. The moment you know you're back. Healing has a quiet checkpoint, a small moment, where you realize you're no longer living as the person who came into survival mode. It sounds like this. I don't feel scared. I don't feel the need to fix everything. I don't feel like I'm shrinking myself. I don't feel like I'm hiding anymore. I don't feel like I'm walking on memories. I don't feel like I'm bracing for pain. Your mind didn't force this moment. I noticed it. That noticing is the return home. No one teaches you how to feel safe. People teach you how to work, how to achieve, how to be useful, how to endure, how to pretend. But no one teaches you how to feel safe. You learn safety by unlearning survival through slower mornings, softer boundaries, kinder self-talk, deeper breath, safer relationships, honesty with yourself, emotional self-respect, letting people earn access, letting your nervous system have a say. Safety isn't an accident. It's a practice. The moment she realized peace didn't demand fear, there was a woman who always checked the locks twice, not because she was paranoid, until one night. She locked the door once and walked away. Didn't think twice. Didn't return. Didn't repeat. Halfway to bed, she froze. Wait. I didn't check twice. But her body felt calm. No alarm. No panic. No tension spike. She realized, standing in that hallway, this is what safety feels like when it finally reaches the body. She didn't cry. She didn't celebrate. She just breathed. Fully. Deeply. Without fear. That's the moment. Her nervous system came home. Being at home in your body is an act of revolution, because for years, your body was a battleground. But now, it's becoming a shelter, a place you can rest, without guilt, without fear, without bracing, a place you can return to, instead of running from, a place you can trust. This is not a small chapter. This is a milestone. The moment your healing stops being something you pursue and starts being something you live. Chapter 10 begins where home becomes strength, where safety doesn't just comfort you. It transforms the way you love, choose, move, and live. Chapter 10. When safety becomes strength. There comes a moment in healing when safety stops being something you're chasing and starts becoming something you use. Not to hide behind, not to protect as if it will vanish, but to build from. This chapter is about that moment. The moment safety becomes strength. You were never weak, you were unprotected. People often mistake survival mode behavior for weakness. Shutting down, overthinking, apologizing too much, walking on emotional eggshells, shrinking in conflict, staying in harmful situations, avoiding decisions, controlling small things, accepting too little. But these aren't weaknesses. They are strategies. They were the best your nervous system could do, with what you had at the time. Survival isn't failure. It's brilliant. It's an adaptation. It's your mind and body keeping you alive, in a moment where safety was not available. But the moment safety arrives, real safety, those strategies begin to dissolve, because you no longer need them. The shift, safety becomes foundation, not defense. At first, safety feels fragile, like something you must protect, or you'll lose it. You tiptoe around it. You test it. You doubt it. But then, slowly, safety stops being a shield and becomes a foundation. It stops being something you guard and becomes something you stand on. This is when your entire life begins to change, because safety creates clarity, and clarity creates power. How safety changes the way you move through the world. Number 1, you stop negotiating your worth. When you feel safe, you no longer beg for the bare minimum. You no longer bargain with your dignity. You know what you deserve, and you don't fear the consequences of choosing it. Number 2, you stop abandoning yourself in unsafe environments. Self-abandonment is a survival tool. You disconnect from your needs just to stay functional. But when safety returns, you come home to yourself. You stay with your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Number 3, you make decisions without fear. When you're safe, decisions don't feel like threats. They feel like directions. You choose from clarity, not panic. Number 4, you stop performing and start living. When your body isn't in defense mode, you no longer shapeshift to fit people. You show up as you are. Clean, honest, whole. Number 5, you start telling the truth. Not the survival truth, the one meant to keep peace, but the real truth, the one meant to keep you. Truth-telling is impossible. When danger is present, it becomes natural. When safety returns. The man who apologized for breathing. There was a man who apologized too much, apologized for asking questions, apologized for wanting space, apologized for being tired, apologized for taking up time, for taking up room, for taking up life. He wasn't weak. He was conditioned, raised in a home where his needs were treated as inconveniences, where each request was met with anger, or silence, or punishment. So he learned early, if I apologize first, maybe they won't get upset. Years later, in a healthier life, he still said, "Sorry, I didn't mean to bother you. Sorry, I know you're busy. Sorry, forget I said anything." Until one day, a friend looked at him gently and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. You're allowed to exist. You don't have to shrink to fit here." He didn't cry. He didn't collapse. He just inhaled and realized his apology was not a habit. It was an old survival pattern, still running in a safe environment. And when he realized he wasn't in danger, the apologies stopped. Not instantly, but gradually. Not because he forced confidence, but because his safety finally caught up to his reality. That's the power of feeling safe again. Safety makes you big in a way survival never could. You don't become arrogant. You don't become loud. You don't become aggressive. You become present. You fill your own skin, instead of deflating inside it. This bigness is quiet, but powerful. You look people in the eye. You speak clearly. You don't over-explain. You don't justify your existence. You don't drown in self-doubt. You stop monitoring the room for danger. You stop asking for permission to be whole. Safety gives you presence. Presence gives you power. The forgiveness that healing requires. When safety becomes strength, you begin forgiving yourself for who you had to be when you weren't safe. The version of you who stayed too long. The version who couldn't say no. The version who trusted the wrong people. The version who kept the peace by shrinking. The version who went silent. The version who hid their emotions. The version who froze under pressure. The version who couldn't rest. The version who apologized for breathing. You realize you weren't failing. You were adapting. Survival you was not a mistake. Survival you was a protector. But you're not in the same war anymore. The new strength, calm without fear. There's a particular kind of calm that only comes after years of survival. It's not passive. It's not weak. It's not soft in the fragile way. It's soft in the anchored way. Soft like a stable breath, a grounded spine, a steady heartbeat, a clear mind, a quiet confidence, a relaxed jaw, a slow exhale, an unforced presence. The kind of calm that says, I'm not who I used to be, and I'm not scared of who I'm becoming. This is the new strength, the strength born from safety. When you feel safe, you finally feel enough. Safety reveals something. Survival always hid. You were never broken. You were never unworthy. You were never too much. You were never the problem. You were simply unprotected. And now, you are not. When safety enters your body, your worth becomes visible to you again. Not because you earned it, but because now, you can feel it. The moment safety turns into power, you begin living differently. You keep promises to yourself. You stop chasing people. You stop letting fear choose for you. You stop betraying yourself in relationships. You stop playing small to survive. You stop hiding the truth. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop fearing love. You stop fearing loss. You stop fearing your own voice. You step into the world as someone who belongs to themselves. That is the ultimate power. Chapter 11 begins where protection becomes purpose, where safety doesn't just change how you live, but how you love, choose, heal, and continue your life, without fear guiding the way. Chapter 11. When your life stops feeling like a threat. There comes a moment in your healing when the world you used to fear stops feeling like something you have to survive, where the alarm inside your body finally turns off, where the next day doesn't feel dangerous, where the future doesn't feel sharp, where uncertainty doesn't feel like a punishment. This chapter is about that moment. The moment your life finally stops feeling like a threat. The world hasn't softened, you have strengthened. People misunderstand healing. They think it means the world will suddenly become easier, gentler, kinder. It won't. The world will remain unpredictable. People will remain complex. Life will remain uncertain. But the difference is this. You are no longer fragile inside it. Your nervous system is no longer on the verge of collapse. Your body is no longer scanning for danger every second. Your mind is no longer convinced that everything new is a threat waiting to unfold. This is the beginning of actual freedom. Not the kind where you try to be brave, but the kind where bravery becomes your resting state. The deepest shift, you stop expecting life to hurt you. Survival teaches you that pain comes without warning. Healing teaches you that peace can come quietly, consistently, dependably. At first, you don't trust the peace. You think it's temporary. You think it's a trick. You think something is wrong, because nothing is wrong. But slowly, you stop expecting life to punish you for breathing. That's when the world changes. The woman who never unpacked her bag. There was a woman who never unpacked her suitcase. She moved into a new apartment, her own space, her own life, her own freedom. But she kept her bag by the door. For 6 months. Not because she was moving. Not because she was traveling. Not because she was busy. Because growing up, stability never lasted. Peace was temporary. Love came with expiration dates. Safety had loopholes. So she learned. Don't settle. Don't root. Don't trust. Don't relax. She lived in a home she paid for, but her body lived out of a suitcase. One night, she tripped on the bag and burst out laughing. Not sad, not angry. A laugh that sounded like relief and realization. She sat on the floor and whispered, "I'm not leaving. I'm actually safe. I don't have to be ready to run anymore." The next morning, she unpacked the bag. Not her clothes. Her life. That's the moment. Her life stopped feeling like a threat. The body after years of alertness. When life no longer feels dangerous, your breath deepens. Your shoulders drop. Your sleep softens. Your stomach unknots. Your thoughts slow. Your reactions quiet. Your fears shrink. Your intuition sharpens. Your body stops pre-playing disasters. Stops rehearsing pain. Stops expecting emergencies. For the first time in a long time, you live. Not prepared. Not anticipate. Not survive. Live. What it feels like to finally belong in your own life. Something beautiful happens. Number 1, you stop waiting for the catch. You trust good things, without searching for the flaw. Number 2, you stop analyzing every small problem as a danger. A delay isn't rejection. A silence isn't abandonment. A mistake isn't a catastrophe. Number 3, you stop living for approval. You no longer need validation to feel real. Number 4, you stop treating calm like boredom. Calm becomes a sign of stability, not emptiness. Number 5, you stop shrinking to protect yourself. Your presence expands. Because your fear contracts. Healing doesn't make you invincible. It makes you available. Available for connection, joy, softness, rest, love, opportunities, risk, creativity, partnership, community, belonging. Fear blocks all of this. Safety makes room for it. When life stops feeling dangerous, you stop watching for what could go wrong, and finally start seeing what could go right. The riskless response to love and opportunity. Unsafe people chase love for safety. Safe people choose love from abundance. Unsafe people chase opportunities because they fear running out. Safe people choose opportunities because they believe more will come. Safety shifts you from desperation to discernment, from clinging to choose, from panicking to pacing, from fearing loss to trusting capacity. The boy who flinched at kindness. There was a boy who flinched every time someone was kind to him. Not because he didn't want kindness. He wanted it desperately. But in his childhood, kindness always came right before cruelty. A soft moment, followed by a sharp one. A gentle tone, followed by an explosion. So his body learned. Kindness is the setup. Pain is the punchline. Years later, someone in his life began loving him consistently, softly, patiently, without conditions. Every time he flinched, they stayed. Every time he panicked, they reassured him. Every time he withdrew, they waited. Months passed. Then one day, they handed him a cup of tea, and he didn't flinch, didn't shrink, didn't brace. He just accepted it, and that tiny act was the loudest evidence that his life finally stopped feeling like a threat. You finally see yourself as someone worth protecting. This is one of the most profound parts of healing. You stop living like you're disposable. You stop treating your body as a machine. You stop treating your heart as collateral damage. You stop treating your emotions as inconveniences. You stop treating your needs as burdens. And you begin treating yourself as someone worthy, not because you've achieved anything, but because you exist. When life stops feeling like a threat, you can finally plan a future. People in survival don't dream. They calculate. They anticipate. They prepare. But when safety arrives, you start imagining. You start hoping. You start wanting. You start creating. You start believing. You start building. You plan trips. You take risks. You try again. You trust again. You open again. You breathe again. Your life expands because your fear contracts. Safety makes you brave without force. You don't have to push yourself. You don't have to hype yourself. You don't have to manipulate courage. Courage becomes your natural baseline because you trust your world again. And more importantly, you trust you again. Chapter 12 begins where fear finally lets go, where safety turns into identity, and the life you're building becomes a place you can truly live in. Chapter 12. When safety becomes who you are. There is a difference between feeling safe and being someone who moves like they are safe. Most people only ever reach the first stage, a moment of relief, a breath that's finally deep, a pause that doesn't scare them. But the next stage, the rare stage, is when safety becomes your personality, your posture, your presence. This chapter is about that shift. The moment you stop trying to act calm and start being calm. The moment you stop performing strength and start embodying it. The moment you stop waiting for danger and start building a life that doesn't center around fear. Safety as an identity, the greatest transformation. The old version of you walked around the world like everything required self-defense. Your conversations, your decisions, your relationships, your silence, your ambitions. Everything felt like a battlefield. But slowly, without loud announcements, without dramatic moments, you started becoming someone new. Someone grounded, someone clear, someone present, someone steady. This is what safety becoming identity looks like. You breathe before you react. You think before you assume. You feel before you flee. You speak without trembling. You stand without shrinking. You receive it without panicking. Not because life has become easy, but because you are no longer living on alert. The man who walked quietly into rooms. There was a man who used to enter every room, like he was interrupting something. He walked small, spoke softly, moved carefully, not out of shyness, but out of old survival habits. His childhood taught him that attention was dangerous, and visibility was a risk. So he lived quietly, even as an adult, even when no one was hurting him anymore. Then something strange happened. He started healing. Not quickly, not loudly, just steadily. One day he walked into a meeting, and someone said, "You walked in differently today." He didn't understand. He didn't try to. He didn't overthink it. But he felt it. He didn't shrink. He didn't whisper. He didn't apologize for existing. He just walked in, like he was supposed to be there. That's what it looks like. When safety becomes identity, you don't force confidence. You radiate it. The 3 markers of a safe identity. Number 1. Your reactions slow down. When fear runs your life, everything feels urgent. When safety runs your life, nothing is impulsive. You don't jump to defend. You don't scramble to explain. You don't collapse into guilt. You respond slowly, intentionally, honestly, not distant, present, not cold, collected. This is the foundation of a regulated life. Number 2. You stop needing permission to exist. This is one of the greatest signs. Your identity has changed. You stop asking the world for the right to take up space. You speak without apologizing. You rest without guilt. You set boundaries without shaking. You say no without rehearsing. You choose yourself without collapsing. Not because you became selfish, but because you finally understand. You are someone worth honoring. Number 3. You stop confusing chaos with connection. People who grow up unsafe often mistake intensity for intimacy. The highs, the lows, the unpredictability, the emotional roller coasters. It feels familiar. It feels addictive. It feels like home. But when safety becomes identity, you stop craving emotional chaos. You stop bonding through wounds. You stop loving through fear. You stop choosing people who drain you. You stop keeping relationships alive that kill your peace. Instead, you choose quiet, stable, secure connections, because that's who you have become. The peace you no longer sabotage. There was a time when peace made you uncomfortable. You didn't know what to do. When things were stable, you looked for the flaw. You searched for the threat. You waited for the moment everything would collapse. Then, without noticing, you changed. Now peace doesn't make you suspicious. It makes you grateful. You no longer sabotage it. You protect it. You build it. You choose it. You multiply it. You share it. Peace becomes your instinct, not your reward. The powerful shift. You stop living against yourself. Survival forces you to betray your own needs. You swallow emotions. You override instincts. You stay where you're shrinking. You silence what hurts. You pretend you're fine. Healing brings you back to yourself. But when safety becomes identity, something even bigger happens. You no longer negotiate your own well-being. You don't argue with your boundaries. You don't justify your needs. You don't debate your self-worth. You don't explain your emotions. You live aligned with who you are and who you're becoming. Not reluctantly, confidently. You become someone people feel safe around. This is the beauty of your transformation. As you become safe within yourself, you naturally become safe for others. Not because you're perfect, but because you're regulated. Your presence calms. Your words ground. Your silence is reassuring. Your energy steadies the room. Your boundaries teach others how to treat you. People feel safe around you because you are no longer a threat to yourself. The girl who stopped apologizing. There was a girl who apologized for everything. If someone bumped into her, she apologized. If she didn't understand something, she apologized. If she had an opinion, she apologized. She wasn't sorry. She was scared. Scared of disappointing. Scared of taking up space. Scared of being too much. One day, her therapist told her, "You're not apologizing. You're asking for permission to exist." That line pierced her. Slowly, she began replacing "I'm sorry" with "Thank you for being patient." Or, "I see your perspective." Or, "I understand." Or simply, silence. And without realizing it, she grew into someone who no longer needed to beg for space. She owned it. That's what safety as identity creates. A person who no longer shrinks out of fear of being seen. The world changes because you do. Everything in your outer life is shaped by your inner world. When you are unsafe internally, everything feels like danger. When you become safe internally, everything becomes a possibility. People treat you differently because your energy teaches them how. Opportunities appear because your presence is open to them. Boundaries strengthen because you no longer negotiate with them. Your relationships transform because you finally choose from clarity, not fear. Your life expands because you stop performing smallness. Safety becomes not what you feel, but who you are. This is the new you. This chapter isn't about healing anymore. This chapter is about the identity you earned. Regulated, grounded, steady, present, confident, calm, self-trusting, emotionally safe, whole. This is the you. You fought so long to find it. You who doesn't run. You who don't apologize for existing. You who doesn't fear love. The you who doesn't collapse under pressure. You who don't see life as a threat anymore. The you who finally feels like home. To yourself. Chapter 13 begins where identity becomes expansion. Where the safe person you've become starts building a life that finally fits you. Chapter 13. The life you build when you finally feel safe. There comes a moment in healing when the inside becomes so steady that the outside finally begins to rearrange itself around you. Up until now, everything we built was internal. Your regulation, your safety, your self-trust, your identity. But Chapter 13 is different. This is the chapter where your life starts responding to your transformation. This is where you begin to build. Not because you're desperate. Not because you're scared. Not because you're trying to impress anyone. But because you're finally safe enough to create from truth. This chapter is about the environment you construct. When your nervous system is no longer in survival mode, the first sign of expansion, you edit your life without fear. You don't need permission anymore. You don't need someone else to validate your choices. You don't need the old safety nets that used to keep you small. You start looking at your environment with clear, undisturbed eyes. What no longer fits? Who no longer supports your peace? What habits drain the person you're becoming? What routines no longer match your identity? And for the first time, you don't panic at the answers. You make edits. Quietly. Honestly. Without emotional drama. Not because you're cold, but because safety gives clarity. And clarity gives courage. The woman who cleaned her house and her life. There was a woman who had spent years surrounded by clutter, not because she liked it, but because she never had the mental energy to manage anything beyond survival. Her room looked like her mind, overwhelmed, crowded, unstable. One morning she woke up, and without planning it, she started cleaning. Not aggressively, not urgently, just steadily. A drawer, then a shelf, then the closet, then the entire room. She didn't realize it then, but she wasn't just cleaning her space. She was cleaning her life. That evening her friend visited and said, "It feels different here." She nodded and replied, "It feels different in me too." That moment, that quiet shift, is the beginning of expansion. When the inside changes, the outside follows. Your choices become deliberate. When you finally feel safe again, you stop choosing out of fear. You don't choose relationships because you can't handle loneliness. You don't choose work because you're terrified of failing. You don't choose routines based on exhaustion. You choose with intention. You ask, what builds me? What grounds me? What expands me? What honors me? What aligns with the person I have become? And your life begins to shift into the shape of those answers. The energy of a safe person changes everything. A regulated, grounded person affects the entire environment around them. People speak to you differently because your eyes don't panic. Opportunities appear because your energy communicates readiness. Conversations become clearer because you're not hearing through fear. Relationships deepen because you can finally be present. Your life begins to respond to the safety you embody. The man who stopped chasing. There was a man who always chased. Chased validation. Chased relationships. Chased stability. Chased dreams that didn't belong to him. Chased peace like it was running from him. But when he finally healed, he stopped running. He didn't announce it. He didn't make a motivational speech. He didn't write a long post about it. He just stopped chasing. People asked him, "What changed?" And he said, "I finally became someone worth staying for." When safety becomes identity, you stop chasing what was never aligned with you. The right things come, the wrong things leave, and you no longer confuse the two. The third sign of expansion, your future becomes possible. When you live in survival, the future feels like a threat. When you live in safety, the future becomes a canvas. You start imagining differently. Not the way you used to. In fear, in pressure, in desperation, but in alignment. You begin asking, what kind of life feels like peace? What would I build if I didn't fear collapse? What would I pursue if failure didn't terrify me? What would I allow myself to receive if I believed I deserved it? These questions open doors that survival kept locked. Healing makes you capable of dreaming again. Identity makes you capable of building. The fourth sign, you set boundaries out of love, not fear. A safe person can say, "I can't do this anymore." Not as a threat, not as punishment, not as withdrawal, but for clarity. Your boundaries become gentle, but firm, soft, but final. You don't yell. You don't explain endlessly. You don't beg to be understood. You simply choose peace and let the world adjust. The fifth sign, you no longer shrink for anyone. This is one of the most powerful transformations. People who lived in survival often shrink to stay safe. They become small in conversations, small in relationships, small in ambitions, small in expression. But when safety becomes identity, you expand naturally. You speak clearly. You show personality. You take up space. You allow good things in. You walk into rooms with full presence. Not arrogantly, authentically. A special shift, you start choosing yourself without feeling guilty. This chapter marks the moment where something rare happens. You no longer feel bad for taking care of yourself. You no longer apologize for prioritizing your mental health. You no longer shrink to make others comfortable. You no longer abandon your needs to avoid conflict. Your guilt dissolves. Your identity takes over. You're not choosing yourself to hurt anyone. You're choosing yourself because you finally understand your own worth. The life you are now capable of building. With safety as identity, these possibilities appear. Stable relationships, peaceful routines, healthier friendships, deeper emotional intimacy, meaningful work, grounded communication, softened self-talk, healthy love, consistent habits, spacious time, genuine rest, a life that feels like yours. You are no longer a survivor, trying to hold yourself together. You are a builder, designing a life that matches the healed version of you. The moment you realize you are no longer who you were, this is the most beautiful moment in healing. It doesn't come with fireworks. It's quiet. It arrives on a random afternoon, when you notice. You didn't panic. You didn't tense up. You didn't overthink. You didn't disappear into fear. You handled something with a calmness that surprises even you. You whisper to yourself, "I've changed." And it's true. This is the life you build when you finally feel safe again. Chapter 14 begins where expansion becomes protection. When the life you're building requires a new level of boundaries, intention, and strength. Chapter 14. Protecting the peace you fought so hard to build. There's a point in healing when gaining peace is no longer the challenge. Keeping it is. Chapter 14 is about that moment when the life you're building becomes something worth protecting. Because peace is not passive. It's maintained, defended, respected, and curated. This chapter is about what you do after you heal. When the world tests the new identity you've become, the truth, peace will always be tested. Your healing does not exempt you from life. It equips you for it. The moment your inner world stabilizes, the outer world will respond in 3 ways. First, old patterns will return to see if they still fit. Second, old people will reappear to see if you've really changed. Third, old triggers will resurface to see if you still fall the same way. And this is not punishment. It's calibration. Peace must be tested. For you to trust it. The friend who tried to pull her back. There was a woman who had finally healed. Her mornings were calm. Her breathing is slow. Her boundaries are steady. Then one day, an old friend reappeared. The kind of friend who loved chaos and lived inside drama like oxygen. She invited her out. The woman said, "Maybe another time." The friend replied, "You've changed." With the tone people use when they mean it as an accusation. The old version of her would have apologized, explained, shrunk. But this new her simply said, "I hope so." Not defensive, not angry, just honest. She wasn't protecting herself from the friend. She was protecting the identity she fought to build. And that is the work of Chapter 14. Learning to protect the life your healing made possible. You must guard your peace like something sacred. Because it is. Not everyone is allowed access to the healed version of you. Not everyone gets to sit at your table just because they used to have a seat there. Not every conversation deserves your energy. And not every situation deserves a reaction. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's stewardship. You are responsible for the state of the home inside your mind. That means protecting it from people, patterns, and even old versions of yourself that want to return. The most dangerous threat to peace isn't people. It's self-betrayal. You can remove toxic people, set healthy boundaries, and rebuild your identity. But if you still ignore your needs to keep the peace externally, the war continues internally. Self-betrayal sounds like it's fine. When it's not a big deal. When it is, I don't want to cause a problem. I'll just deal with it later. I don't want anyone upset with me. But Chapter 14 teaches you this. Peace built on self-abandonment is just quiet suffering. And you're not building that anymore. The man who always said yes. There was a man who grew up believing that being agreeable meant being loved. So he said yes to everything. Yes to extra work. Yes to uncomfortable favors. Yes to plans he didn't want. Yes to people who drained him. Healing taught him boundaries. But keeping peace taught him something deeper. Your yes means nothing if you can't say no. One day his coworker tried to place extra tasks on him again. For the first time he said, "I can't take that on." His voice didn't shake. His body didn't collapse. His guilt didn't swallow him. And afterward, he didn't feel selfish. He felt safe. He realized, peace grows every time you choose yourself, without apologizing for it. Protecting peace requires disappointing people. Not intentionally, not carelessly, but inevitably. The moment you honor your limits, someone will want more than you can give. The moment you say no, someone will wish you said yes. And the moment you choose peace, someone will interpret it as distance. But this chapter teaches you a truth most people never learn. You cannot protect your peace and protect everyone's comfort at the same time. One of them must come first. Choose wisely. Choose you. You must rebuild your environment to match your new identity. A healed mind cannot survive in an unhealed environment. This is the part people forget. You can be emotionally regulated, self-aware, responsible, and grounded. But if your environment is chaotic, your peace will suffocate. So Chapter 14 invites you to ask, do my surroundings support my nervous system? Does my routine build or drain me? Do I have space to rest, think, breathe? Are my relationships rooted in safety or survival? Does my environment reflect the person I'm becoming, or the person I used to be? Healing requires courage. Keeping peace requires consistency. Protecting peace requires recognizing old self-sabotage. Sometimes the threat isn't external, it's internal, and it usually comes disguised as, "I can handle this. It's not a big deal. I'll stretch myself. It's fine. I don't want to lose anyone. I don't want to seem cold." But slow down. Ask yourself, is this choice aligned with my healed self or my old self? Are you moving from clarity or from fear? Chapter 14 is about not letting your healed identity be dragged backward by an unhealed habit. The new rules of a protected life. These aren't strict laws. They're guidelines that evolve with you. Number 1. If it disturbs your nervous system, it cannot stay. Number 2. If it requires abandoning yourself, it is not for you. Number 3. If it repeatedly drains you, it's a debt, not a relationship. Number 4. If you have to perform to maintain it, it's not peace. Number 5. If your intuition whispers, listen before it screams. Number 6. If you need to justify it endlessly, it is already wrong. Number 7. If it costs your mental health, the price is too high. This is how you hold on to peace. Instead of hoping it will hold on to you. The person who finally closed the door. There was someone who spent years keeping people in their life, long after they had stopped showing up. Every time they tried to let go, They felt guilty, fear, confusion. One night, they sat in silence and realized, peace isn't something I find. It's something I choose. So they closed the door, not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of alignment. The next morning, they woke up, and the air felt different, lighter, cleaner, like their lungs had more room. Because peace arrives the moment you stop negotiating for it. Peace becomes the standard. Before healing, peace feels like a reward. After healing, peace becomes the baseline. This is the stage where you don't chase chaos. Don't tolerate instability. Don't cling to inconsistency. Don't romanticize red flags. Don't explain your boundaries. Don't apologize for self-protection. Don't abandon yourself for love. This is the life where peace is not occasional. It's the minimum. This is what safety looks like when it's fully integrated. Chapter 15 begins where peace becomes identity, when you no longer try to feel safe, because safety is now who you are. Chapter 15, when safety becomes who you are. There comes a point in healing when you stop asking, "Am I safe yet?" And instead, you begin to realize, "I move differently now. I trust myself now. I am safe, not because life is perfect, but because I am." Chapter 15 is about that moment. The moment when safety is no longer a feeling you chase, but a state you live in. Safety doesn't feel loud. Most people expect safety to arrive dramatically, like fireworks or relief that knocks you off your feet. But it rarely does. Safety arrives quietly. It shows up in small decisions, small instincts, small behaviors. That tells you something inside you has shifted. Real safety looks like not reacting immediately, breathing before you decide, hearing your own voice more clearly, choosing peace over performance, walking away without trembling, saying no without rehearsing explanations, feeling the ground beneath you, steady and real. Safety doesn't shout. It sits beside you, like an old friend saying, "I'm here, and I'm not leaving." The first morning she didn't wake up in fear. There was a woman who spent years waking up in a state of panic. Every morning felt like a race she hadn't trained for. One day, months into her healing, she woke up differently. No rush, no dread, no tightness in her chest, just a quiet, steady breath. At first, she didn't know what felt different. Then she realized, this is what safety feels like, when it becomes the baseline. Not extraordinary, not shocking, just a present. A new normal. This is chapter 15. The chapter where calm stops feeling strange and starts feeling familiar. The body finally trusts you again. Your nervous system remembers everything. Every dismissal. Every time you ignored its signals. Every time you stayed in unsafe places. Every time you silenced your intuition. But healing slowly rebuilds that relationship. And eventually, your body learns something new. You won't abandon it anymore. You won't force it into chaos. You won't ignore the trembling. You won't push past its limits. When safety becomes who you are, your body begins to say, I can rest now. I can soften now. I can trust you. And that trust is one of the deepest forms of inner peace. A person can never know. You stop chasing what was never safe for you. Before healing, your patterns were survival-based. Chasing approval, trying to earn love, running from loneliness, tolerating inconsistency, rewriting your worth based on other people. But when safety becomes your identity, your desires change. You stop craving chaos. You stop feeling drawn to instability. You stop mistaking intensity for intimacy. You finally understand. What once felt like love was just adrenaline. And what feels like love now? Quiet consistency, soft presence, people who don't hurt you, and call it passion. Safety changes not just how you feel, but what you choose. You start to live slower without feeling behind. Living in survival mode makes everything feel urgent. Every decision, every conversation, every moment. But when safety becomes internal, your pace changes. You begin to understand. There is no rush when your life is aligned. You stop competing. You stop comparing. You stop pushing yourself like you have something to prove. Slow is no longer scary. Slow becomes graceful. Slow becomes enough. The man who stopped running. There was a man who spent years chasing success because he believed safety lived in achievement. He was always ahead, but never at peace. Then one evening, he found himself sitting on a balcony, watching the sunset, not because he planned to, but because he finally had the capacity to. No guilt, no restlessness, just presence. He realized in that moment, what I was chasing is what I feel right now. Not success, not status, safety. And it came not from what he built, but from who he became. Your intuition becomes your new compass. When safety becomes your identity, your intuition gets louder. Not chaotic, not panicking, not anxious. Clear, calm, direct. You start noticing red flags before they matter. You stop overriding your instincts for the sake of potential. You start honoring what your gut whispers instead of what your fear shouts, because the healed version of you no longer negotiates with what threatens your peace. Section 6. The return of self-respect. Perhaps the most beautiful part of feeling safe again is the return of self-respect. Not ego, not pride, respect. A soft recognition that you deserve gentleness, consistency, loyalty, and care. You don't settle for crumbs. You don't beg for love. You don't tolerate what confuses you. Your boundaries stop being defense mechanisms and become expressions of dignity. When safety becomes who you are, your self-respect becomes unshakable. The world feels less threatening because you feel more whole. This is the final shift. The point where stress doesn't own you because you trust your resilience. Where conflict doesn't terrify you because you trust your voice. Where the future doesn't overwhelm you because you trust the path you're on. where being alone doesn't scare you, because you trust your presence. When safety becomes who you are, life does not become easier. You just become stronger, more grounded, more centered, more prepared, more you. You stop bracing for impact. This is subtle, but powerful. Before healing, your body stayed tense, even in calm moments, always waiting, always anticipating, always preparing for the next hit. But now, your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your mind stops rehearsing worst-case scenarios. You stop bracing for impact, because you finally believe that peace is not temporary. It's a home you can live in. Not a vacation, not a miracle, a home. The highest form of safety, belonging to yourself. This is the final truth. When safety becomes who you are, you no longer belong to fear, to trauma, to survival strategies, to old identities, or to people who couldn't meet you. You belong to yourself, to your truth, your boundaries, your voice, your healing, your becoming. You finally return home, not to a place, but to yourself. And there is no safer place than a self you can trust. The outro begins where safety becomes a life. Not an idea, not a dream, but a reality. You now have the courage to live. For the ones who are learning to feel safe again, you've spent so much of your life surviving what you didn't choose, holding yourself together in ways no one ever saw, carrying storms. You never asked for it, and yet somehow, you're still here. Not the same, not untouched, but here. Here, rebuilding a life your younger self never believed it was possible. Here, learning to feel safe again, in a world that once taught you to flinch. Here, breathing in a way that doesn't hurt. Here, discovering that safety isn't a place you find, but a person you become. This whole journey was never about perfection. It wasn't about getting rid of fear or pretending the past didn't happen. It was about making space inside yourself for a new kind of life. A life where your nervous system is not fighting for air, but expanding into peace. A life where you listen to your body instead of arguing with it. A life where you choose people who feel like gentleness, not adrenaline. A life where safety is not a memory you're trying to recover, but a future you're learning to create. You did not heal overnight. You healed one breath at a time, one boundary at a time, one honest moment at a time, one goodbye at a time, one trembling step at a time. You healed the first time. You walked away from what hurt. You healed the first time. You said, "I deserve better." You healed the moment. You stopped abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. You healed every time. You chose rest over running. This healing has been happening quietly, long before you noticed it. You may still have moments of fear. That's okay. Healing doesn't make you flawless. It makes you aware. It makes you steady. It makes you capable of choosing differently. Safety isn't the absence of fear. It's the presence of courage. And you have that now, more than you realize. So here's the final truth. You are not the person who braced for impact at every turn. You are not the person who apologized for existing. You are not the person who lived one breath away from breaking. You are the person who came back to themselves after being lost for years. You are the person who learned to breathe again. You are the person who turned survival into a softer kind of living. You are the person building a home inside your own body for the first time. And that is extraordinary. Before you go, I want you to hear this clearly ***. You deserve safety. You deserve slowness. You deserve rest. You deserve gentleness. You deserve a life that doesn't force you to shrink. You deserve to wake up without fear in your chest. You deserve to walk into a room without scanning for exits. You deserve relationships that feel like softness, not tension. You deserve to exist without bracing. You deserve to feel safe again and again and again. And if no one has told you this before, you're doing it. You're healing. You're coming back home. One breath at a time. One truth at a time. One new beginning at a time. And you are safe here. If this message spoke to you, share it. Subscribe. Keep listening. This is Beyond the Noise Studio.